Welcome to Watch Cozy. Before we start, please hit that subscribe button. We really do work hard finding materials and putting these discussions together for you. Okay, let's dive in. Ever notice how you can get completely sucked into a 2-hour movie, totally focus, but then, try to read even one page of a book and your mind just drifts?
Oh, absolutely.
And what about learning something new? You feel like you've got it, but a few weeks later, poof, it's gone. Why is focusing on reading so much harder sometimes? And why do we forget things so easily?
These are such common struggles, aren't they? And they tap into something fundamental about how our brains handle information, especially now. We've been looking through the material you mentioned, and it has some really interesting takes on this.
Yeah.
Our aim today is basically to pull out the key ideas, the practical stuff,
Yeah.
to figure out why this happens and what you can actually do about it. Better focus, better memory, better learning.
It just feels weird, doesn't it? You'd think the active stuff, reading, studying, would grab your attention more. But nope, distractions win, and knowledge just vanishes.
Totally. And about that focus issue, the material brings up some relevant research. There's a study, I think November 2023, from York University.
Oh yeah, I saw that. They compared students watching a video versus reading text, right? Before doing concentration tasks.
Exactly. And the results were, well, not what you might expect.
Right. The video group, the ones who had it easy, they actually did worse on the focus tests afterwards.
That's the surprising part. The theory is watching is passive. Everything's handed to you, less mental heavy lifting, less visualization needed. So maybe that ease actually makes the brain less ready for tasks that need real concentration.
Interesting. So the constant stream of easy-to-watch content, could it be lowering our focus baseline?
It's a compelling idea the material raises.
Yeah.
It suggests maybe that feeling of, I hate studying or I just can't learn this, isn't always about you or the subject. Maybe it's the method you're using that doesn't quite match how your brain works right now.
Okay, that makes sense. And this leads right into why we forget things, right? The forgetting curve.
Precisely. The material references Hermann Ebbinghaus, a German psychologist. He studied memory empirically and came up with this forgetting curve.
Sounds a bit ominous. What's the takeaway?
Well, the striking thing is how fast forgetting happens. Your brain starts ditching new info almost right away. If you don't do anything to reinforce it, well, nearly all of it could be gone in, say, 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, 3 to 4 weeks. That's kind of depressing if you're putting in the effort.
It is a reality check. But here's the crucial part. The sources stress review. Review is your weapon against the curve.
Okay.
The material suggests that reviewing something maybe 5 times can flatten that curve dramatically. Like you could retain maybe 95% long-term. Each review just makes the memory stronger, harder to forget.
So review isn't just good practice. It's actually essential if you want stuff to stick. But how do you review effectively? Just rereading seems, well, dull.
Yeah.
And maybe not that effective.
Exactly. Rereading can be very passive. And this is where the material brings in mind mapping as a really powerful tool for both structuring info and for that crucial review.
Mind mapping. Okay, let's get into that. What is it exactly, and why does it help?
The core idea is super interesting. It's about matching how your brain actually thinks. Our brains, they don't think in straight lines like an article intro, body, conclusion.
Right, thoughts jump around.
Totally. They branch out, you have a central idea, and boom, other related thoughts shoot off in different directions, like a tree. That's literally what a mind map looks like. The name mental map is spot on.
Okay, so it visually mirrors that natural branching process. What are the benefits of doing that?
Quite a few, actually. It forces you to keep the main topic right in the center. It helps structure complex ideas visually, so you see connections you might miss otherwise. It kind of pushes you to focus on the main points, the important 80–90%.
Distilling it down.
Yeah. And the process itself, drawing the branches, connecting ideas, it aids deeper understanding and visualization. Plus, having that visual map makes recall much, much easier later on.
And thinking back to the forgetting curve, just the act of making the mind map, that is a form of review, isn't it? You have to engage with the material multiple times.
Precisely. It's active engagement. You're not just passively reading, you're organizing, connecting, thinking. That strengthens the memory pathways. And seeing it all laid out gives you that bird's eye view, a sense of really getting it.
Can we make this more concrete? Any examples from the material on how you'd actually use it?
Sure. Let's say you're learning English. Your center bubble is English language. Then you draw main branches, maybe grammar, vocabulary, usage.
Okay.
Under grammar, you'd have sub-branches for things like tenses, verbs, sentence structure. Under vocabulary, basic words, technical terms, slang. Under usage, reading, speaking, listening. See how it maps out the whole territory.
Yeah, it breaks a huge topic down into connected pieces. What about something specific, like for an exam? The material mentioned physics, I think. Pressure.
Right, the pressure example, center node, pressure,
Yeah.
branches could be force, area, the formula, units like pascals,
Oh.
and importantly, examples.
Ah, the examples are key.
Definitely. The material used that great little story. Why does a sharp needle hurt way more than a blunt object, even with the same force applied?
Because the area is tiny, right? Concentrates the pressure.
Exactly. So you'd put that on your map, maybe a little drawing. The key phrase, small area, call it high pressure. Mapping it like that helps you remember why it works, not just memorize the formula. It makes it stick.
That anecdote really does help. Okay, so it makes sense. Did the sources mention any specific rules or tips for making good mind maps?
Yeah, a few useful pointers. First, don't stress about making the first one perfect. The sources say you should expect to revise it. It's a process. As you learn more, you'll tweak it.
So it evolves. Got it.
Second, use really short keywords or phrases, just triggers for your memory, not full sentences. Keep it concise.
Okay.
Third, they mentioned including that silly connection technique. We should definitely talk more about that one.
Intriguing. Okay, what else?
Fourth, keep things organized. Each piece of info should belong clearly to its branch. Don't repeat the same detail all over the map. Keep it clean.
Makes sense for clarity.
And fifth, maybe the most important, every single keyword you put on there needs to answer a question for you. You need to know why it's there, how it connects. If you just copy stuff mindlessly, the map loses its power. The why is crucial.
Understanding the why separates deep learning from just like memorizing facts. Good point. Okay, beyond mind mapping, were there other effective learning tricks mentioned?
Yes, a really powerful one. It's sometimes called the teacher-student effect.
Teacher-student effect.
The basic idea is simple. One of the absolute best ways to cement your own understanding of something is to try and teach it to someone else.
That feels right. It forces you to organize your thoughts. Does research back that up?
It does. The material pointed to a 2014 study, Washington University, I think, which showed real benefits. Just preparing to teach makes you structure the information, simplify it, and crucially, figure out where your own understanding is weak.
Ah, so it highlights your own learning gaps. If you can't explain it simply.
You probably don't understand it well enough yourself.
Exactly.
It's a fantastic self-check.
And the study found tangible results.
Yeah, students who studied expecting they'd have to teach it later actually showed better focus and remembered things more accurately than those just studying for a test. The mere expectation changed how they learned.
That's amazing. The anticipation itself boosts learning, and you could totally use your mind map while you're teaching someone.
Absolutely. Combine the techniques, it reinforces everything. It links back to that common idea, that if you truly get something, you should be able to explain it so simply anyone could grasp it.
Right. Okay, let's circle back to that silly connection technique you mentioned for mind maps. How does being silly help memory?
It's also known as chaining, apparently used by memory experts. The idea is to link items you want to remember together in a chain using really bizarre, exaggerated, or funny mental images and stories.
Funny stories. Why does weirdness work? Our brains like logic, usually.
That's the key. Because it's not logical or normal, it stands out. Your brain is constantly filtering information, trying to save energy, right? And most everyday stuff gets ignored. But something absurd, emotional, or just plain weird, the brain flags it as potentially important or at least unusual, making it much more memorable.
Okay, I need an example. The source had one, didn't it? Egg, elephant.
Yeah, let's try it. Say you need to remember egg, elephant, copper shoes, refrigerator, fish, book.
Okay, random list.
Yeah, picture this. A giant egg cracks open. Out steps an elephant. But this elephant isn't normal. It's wearing shiny copper shoes, and it's like dribbling awkwardly. It wanders over and squeezes into a refrigerator. Inside the fridge, there's a fish just chilling, reading a book.
Okay, that is definitely memorable because it's so ridiculous. I can see that image now.
Right. It sticks because it's so out there. It leverages the brain's tendency to notice novelty and emotion. Information linked to something vivid or funny bypasses the usual filters and has a better shot at long-term memory. Practicing linking concepts this way, even work or study concepts, can really boost recall.
Using absurdity as a memory tool. Clever. Now, what about the flip side? What did the sources say about overcoming those common roadblocks to just sitting down and focusing in the first place?
One really practical idea was about warming up the brain.
Warming up the brain, like stretching before exercise.
Exactly like that. The material uses that analogy. Think of your brain like a muscle. You wouldn't just sprint flat out without warming up, right? You might cramp up. Jumping into really intense focus work like dense reading without preparing your brain can lead to mental fatigue really fast.
Okay, that makes sense. So how do you do a brain warm-up? Not jumping jacks for your head, I assume?
Haha, no, it's simpler. The suggestion is to find a quiet spot, just for about 5 minutes, before you tackle the main task. And crucially, don't use this time for social media or videos.
Right, avoid the easy distractions. Then what?
Just scan the material. If it's a book, flip through the pages. Look at headings, pictures, diagrams. Don't try to understand it deeply or memorize anything yet. Just get a quick visual overview, a quick skim.
Okay, a brief preview. What next?
After that quick scan, you ask yourself 3 specific questions about what you're about to dive into. 1. What do I really want to understand from this? 2. What parts of this seem unclear or confusing to me right now? 3. What am I hoping to learn or achieve with this session?
Ah, setting an intention. How does that help?
It gives your brain a clear mission. Instead of wandering, it's now actively looking for answers to your questions. It directs your focus. And hey, if you already have a mind map for the topic, you can use that for this 5-minute review and question phase 2. The sources claim this simple routine could boost your study quality by like 50% or more.
Wow, 50% boost for 5 minutes? That's a pretty good deal. Now, speaking of focus killers, the elephant in the room, our phones and devices.
Huge issue. The material even cited a study from scientific reports that found just having your phone nearby, even if it's turned off, can reduce your working memory and concentration.
Turned off? Seriously? It's not buzzing or anything.
The idea explained in the source is that the mere sight of the phone triggers an anticipation of reward in your brain. Like subconsciously, you're waiting for that dopamine hit from a notification. It's like seeing candy makes your mouth water. Just seeing the phone primes that distraction pathway, pulling focus away.
Man, that's subtle but powerful. And it's tough because we often need our devices for the learning itself these days, managing that constant pull.
It's a real tightrope walk, isn't it? But the sources also offered another angle for techniques like mind mapping, shifting from external learning to internal stuff.
Internal stuff, like what?
Like using it to untangle things like anxiety, worry, overthinking, helping you identify the roots of those feelings visually.
Mind mapping for mental health. How would that work?
Let's use their example. Anxiety about the future. You put future anxiety or something similar in the center. Then you branch out with each specific worry. Maybe job worries, finding the right career, life responsibilities, maybe family pressure about your choices, finding a partner, whatever your specific anxieties are.
So you're taking those messy, swirling thoughts and putting them down in black and white, giving them structure.
Exactly. Seeing them laid out visually can help you spot connections. Maybe several worries link back to a fear of failure, for instance. It helps you ask better questions about why you feel that way, which is the first step towards dealing with it.
And analyzing those connections could point to deeper things.
Potentially. The material suggested an example where mapping anxieties might reveal links to, say, perfectionism, which might trace back to something like strict parenting in childhood. Getting it out of your head and onto the map helps with that diagnosis.
That connects to that psychological idea mentioned, doesn't it? That clearly defining a problem is like half the solution. Mind mapping could be a tool for that self-diagnosis.
It offers a framework, yeah, for external info and internal states. And just briefly, the sources mentioned you can do this on paper, whiteboards, or use software. They mentioned Xmind as one tool, but really the tool itself is less important than the thinking process.
This has been really useful. We've covered quite a bit why focus feels harder than watching videos, the reality of the forgetting curve, and how crucial review is. Then mind mapping as this great tool for structure and memory, plus the power of teaching others, and even using silly stories to make things stick.
And those practical tips too, like warming up your brain and acknowledging the phone distraction challenge.
Right, and finally, applying these mapping ideas not just to study topics, but to understand our own thoughts and worries better. It's a versatile approach.
Definitely. We've seen the brain isn't just a passive sponge. It actively filters, and it responds much better to structure, meaning, emotion, even absurdity, than just dry facts.
So, considering how easily our brains let go of things they don't see as vital and how well they grab onto things that are structured or emotional or even just plain weird, maybe think about this. What